Patterns. Let's now talk about patterns. Patterns. Again, I encourage you to go and watch the video. It's like 12 minutes long from Tony. It's so important. It's one of those things that not only stuck with me from the first time I heard it years ago, but it's something that changed how I look at things, how I looked at me, my journey, my life lessons, how I looked at the economy, how I looked at politics, how I looked at the world at large, how I looked at where we are in our seasons of our life and in the seasons of the world. There are patterns. Everything is pattern. And the thing that he says, there are 3 skills that everybody should master, because if they can master these skills, then they can master life, they can master business, and they will live in less fear, and they're going to be more proactive, they're going to take more action, and they're going to get more out of life. And the 3 skills were to identify patterns, use patterns, and create patterns. And what are we talking about? If you go and watch it, I'm not going to just repeat it all. What he talks about is that everything is patterns. Like life, like how a person lives, there is a pattern in life. There is a pattern in the economy. So we talk about economic cycles. There is definitely a pattern. Right now, we are in economic winter, right? People talking about recessions. Are we in recession, not recession? But there's inflation, the cost of living, and all that kind of stuff. So things are tough out there right now. Economically, we are in winter. But let's just take this one for example. With all that going on at the moment, there's a lot of people that are living in fear, and they're believing everything is expensive, and the costs have gone up, and there's a lot of stuff that's out of our control. And it feels like, and so what do people do? Generally, what do people do in these times? They kind of retreat, don't they? They kind of start scrimping and scraping and saving and just retreating back. And they feel like they don't have control, and they feel small. And it's a horrible place to be, and I get it. But one of the things that changed the way I looked at economic winter was to identify that it's a pattern, not just in an economic cycle, and not for everybody to cut back. This is what companies do. Cut back. You see it. All the redundancies, all the restructures, they do it all the time. Instead of investing in their most precious asset, which is their people. And if you listen to people who understand patterns, then you'll know that actually winter is the time to invest in yourself. Make yourself a better asset, a more valuable asset out there in the world. This is the time that you invest. This is not the time that you retreat. This is not the time you disinvest. This is the time you step forward and go, right, I'm going to invest in myself. Again, the message from a couple of weeks ago, or was it last week, from Dean and Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. One of the key ways to fight inflation was, first of all, foremost, invest in yourself. Become more valuable. So you can get a bigger slice of the pie, whatever that pie is. You're more valuable an asset in the world, in the marketplace, especially when you're talking about your business. People are going, nobody's got any money, and there's just no clients out there. No, there's plenty of money out there. There's plenty of people with money, and there's plenty of people wanting to invest. But we've just got to be looking at it. If we think there's nothing out there, we're just going to manifest that, right? That's our energy. But if we go, no, the world's abundant. There's plenty of people out there. Because I tell you what, there's plenty of people that need help. When you say there's more people that need help and support right now in economic winter than there is when things are all great and sunshines and rainbows, people often don't look for support in sunshine and rainbows because they think everything's fine, everything's great, everything's hunky-dory. People need the support now. So we've got to understand that it's a pattern. If you understand, like Tony said, that some of the biggest companies in the world, the most successful companies in the world, companies like Disney, companies like Coca-Cola, were started in recessions, were started in depressions. Some of the most wealthy people in the world They started building their wealth in recessions, in depressions. This is a time to invest our energy and our time and maybe our money, but I'm not a financial advisor. But now is the time that we can start so that we can reap the benefits of that when it comes to autumn. Because if you listen to Tony, he says things are like seasons. These patterns are like seasons, economic winter. We will then go into spring. We will then go into summer, and we then reap the benefits of what we've been sowing in spring and in winter, dare I say, especially in the business world. We'll reap the benefits in the fall. So when we look at this, we go, all right, okay, so this isn't a time for us to panic. When we understand patterns, we understand where we are, which means we're not going to react so much. We're going to respond. There's not going to be so much fear. There's not going to be quite so much frustration about, oh, things aren't working. It's like, no, I know where we are. I know where we are in the cycle of things. I know where we are in the cycle of business, or the cycle of my life, or the cycle of the economy, or the cycle of society. When we understand the patterns in life and in the world and in business, then we can utilize them. So the first thing is to identify the patterns. So this is what that is all about. But once you can identify them, then you can use the patterns. You know what to do. And what I wanted to do is bring this to life for you through, again, some of my story, okay? I can talk about other people, but let me just bring it out to say, this is something that I do, right? This is something that I use. So, because the thing is identify the pattern, but unless you use the pattern, it's just like we've talked about the definition of extreme insanity. Spending time out of the river of life to work on your life, to learn something new, to gain some new skills and capabilities, and then not use them. Well, that's extreme insanity. You've just used your most valuable resource to learn something, and then you've not used it. But it's like patterns. Identify the patterns is how we make sense of things. So brilliant. So then we're not quite so fearful, but then we've got to use the patterns. And when it comes to things like personal development, personal growth, and business development, business growth, it's about then utilizing the patterns. So we look at it and go, oh, okay, so this person's used this. It's like success leaves clues. You know, that philosophy from Jim Rohn. This person's done these steps and they got these results. Well, if I replicate that, I'm not saying that you're guaranteed to get the same results, but are you more likely to be more further forward? If you take somebody else's success clues and you start using them, you are more likely to be moving forward towards the goals that you want, assuming that it's the same goal, right? you don't use the pattern to be an astrophysicist if you're wanting to climb Everest, right? That's not quite how it works. So you find the patterns that are going to be helpful for you in life, in business, in your health, in your relationships, in your finances. So you identify these things. So taking it from me, when I came out of the corporate world and I was trying to make sense of my journey and how I was going to use, I just knew that I needed to use my life experience, but I didn't really know how. I came across a guy called Ted McGrath, and he was great at amazing marketing and sales. But his thing is about using your message, using your experience. And some people are going to go, why didn't you know this already, Martin? But he introduced me to the hero's journey. I didn't know about the hero's journey. I love movies, I love books, story arcs and stuff, but I didn't know there was this concept called the hero's journey. But when he taught me that, I kind of understood my journey. I was able to make more sense of that and then go, these are the elements. And then what happened, I said, right, I want to help people that are in the corporate world to begin with, but then that's like, it's anyone now in terms of like, if you own your own business as well. I want them to be able to have the balance, be able to get in control of their workload and their time, and do a really good job with the work they do, but also spend time with their family. Because that was the thing that was totally naturally out of balance for me. So that's what I wanted to help people with. So I was looking at things and going, right, okay, how do I look at this? It's got to be about in corporate, they just send you on a time management course. So I was like, well, okay, let's start with time. And it was like, this blocking time and these different strategies for time management is like, it's all well and good. So I took that, right? Those are patterns. There are patterns there. And it's like, But what really gets in your way? So I was thinking, what got in my way? And so I identified patterns. It was come down to distraction, interruption, and multitasking. We don't talk about those things on a time management course, but distraction, interruption, and multitasking are the biggest things that are in the way for anybody trying to get anything done. And multitasking in particular, especially when you think you've got loads and loads of stuff to do and you're trying to get them all done. So it's like, well, actually, when it comes to how I want to help people, I really need to address those three things. We can talk about time blocking and all kinds of stuff, but we need to address those three things. So when it comes to time, let's nail those things, because multitasking is my favorite myth to bust. It doesn't exist. It's task switching, and it costs you. It costs you time and productivity and accuracy. So it's like, let's tackle those things. Because if people are less distracted, have less interruptions, and aren't trying to multitask, so they're more focused, they're going to get more done. They're going to be more efficient with their time. Brilliant. So let's then look at the workload. It's like, right, okay, the workload, and how do people do with that? Right, let's have a look at the patterns out there. What do people use? Right, urgent, important, delegate, and basically bin, discard. The Eisenhower matrix. That's a pattern. It's a framework. It's a pattern. Okay, how do we... But again, in the corporate world, they'll throw an Eisenhower matrix at you if you've got loads of stuff to do. And they go, well, yeah, just put the urgent, important, delegate, and the stuff you can get rid of. And you go, oh, well, that's useful. Then you get back to your desk and you go, hold on. Everything's urgent and important. Right? Everything's urgent and important. So... what was missing was the questions to ask of the framework. So I then focused on, right, okay, well, what are the questions? What are the deep questions that we can ask that can help us get in control of our workload, our tasks, and our meetings if we think we've got loads of stuff to do? And it's like, right, okay, well, why are we doing this? Why me, for a start? And why am I doing this in the first place? What's the big why? Sound familiar? Having a why is really, really important. And there's a difference between something being required because some really serious, far-reaching decisions going to be made because of this piece of work versus, oh, we're just going to have a little review of it next Friday. So what's the why, and why me too? And then the second one would be consequences. What's the consequence if this doesn't get done? What's the consequence if it doesn't get done by the deadline that's been given? Or what's the consequence of it not getting done at all? And I identified patterns because back in the day, the amount of false deadlines there were drove me crazy. Oh, I need this tomorrow morning. And then you realize they didn't really need it until next Thursday. But you worked all night to get it done. You put yourself under massive pressure. Other things went by the wayside, including your family, including your health, but also other work that needed to be done, just because somebody gave you a false deadline to make them feel better. Whoa. Let's wheedle that out. So identified patterns. So we looked at what's the consequences of it not getting done at all, or indeed what by the deadline. And if we've got to have a little look at what the real deadline is, great. I'm not going into depth, but hey, use this. Use this. Then the next thing is like, once we started doing that, you're wheedling down the amount of stuff you've got to do. So then you focus on, well, what's going to make the biggest difference? And in order to know what's going to make the biggest difference, you need to understand the goal that you're trying to reach for. You need to understand the clarity of the outcome that you're looking for, be it the project, be it what your business goal is, be it what your personal goal is. So it's about what can make the biggest difference. So all of a sudden I'm recognizing patterns and going, in order for us to get in control of our workload, we've got to ask better questions. And here are 3 of the best questions you can ask. In order to get hold of our time, we need to tackle the things, not the strategy of what you do with your time. We need to tackle the stuff that's getting in the way of your time. Brilliant. Great. And then I thought, well, what about if we've got that, what do we do on a day-to-day basis to make sure that we're staying on track with that? Because it's easy to kind of like be pushed and pulled and maybe just things to fade. And it's like, right, okay, well, we need to build habits. And I've been doing research and studying high performance habits. And, Brendan Bouchard came along and taught me about the high performance habits. He's got the biggest research on high performance out there in the world. And one of the things that all the high performers had in common was that on average, every 52 minutes, they took a break. They weren't doing what most people do that are burning out, which is just to sit at their desk and blast it for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours without a break. That classic thing, do you have a lunch today? No, I didn't have time. Do you have a break today? No, I didn't have time. Here's the thing that happens with that. And again, I recognize the pattern in my own behavior in corporate. Your productivity goes like that. It falls off a cliff through the day if you don't have breaks, if you don't top yourself up. You make more mistakes. You get slower with things. So if you took breaks and topped yourself up, you'd get more done in a shorter amount of time than you trying to work these crazy long hours. But people don't. It's counterintuitive. They don't really understand that. But if you understand the patterns, so you go and go, oh, high performance habits, there's some patterns there. That's one of 6. There's 6 high performance habits, and I'll do something on that on another time. But one of the things, it's not the habit, but underpinning one of the habits is, right, you've got to take time out, short amount of time, every 52 minutes. So every hour, have a break. It was like, and then set your start time, set your end time for work. Organize things outside of work so you're committed to that, so you're more likely to stop work and go and do that thing. It's like just little simple things that you can do that can help. It's like, oh, this is it. And I started off my journey, and when I I did my Act Like a Hero program, when I first came out of corporate and started my coaching business, it was based around those things. There was a workload, there was a time, and there was habits. And it was like, this is great. But what I discovered over time, I was like, these things are great. And then some people were getting results and some people weren't. They were falling off the wagon. And even looking at myself, it was like, I was focusing on doing these things. It's like, is this the only thing? And then it was the likes of Tony that was introducing mindset into my world and what that really meant. I was like, hold on a minute. Whenever I've really seen something through like this, is it just about those strategies and those techniques? I was like, it's not. What's different between now and when I was in corporate? Why aren't I so frazzled? Why aren't I so burnt out? Because I've got more to do now than I've ever had. But back in the day in the corporate world, I had an Excel spreadsheet with over 800 items on it. That was my to-do list. And it was growing all the time. But once you own your own business, you've got more to do than you've ever had to do because it's all on you and it's endless. And it was like, the biggest thing that's different is how I'm approaching it from a mindset point of view. I'm not trying to get to the end of a never-ending to-do list anymore because people are working, trying to get to the end of the to-do list, but thinking there's going to be some reward and satisfaction in that and a break. There's not. There's always more by the nature of business. So I was like, that's the biggest shift in me. That's the biggest shift in my mindset. This is the pattern. So I said, what? The biggest shift is I don't believe I'm here to do everything. What I used to believe was I'm here to do everything and do it all at the same time and all by last Friday. Because that's the urgency and the fear and me not wanting to let people down and thinking that, well, if it's on my plate, it's for me to do. I got to get it done. But it broke me. It's like, but the biggest difference now is I've got more to do than ever. I have endless possibilities and it's all on me. So I'm just here to make the biggest difference. It's like, oh, that's the mindset shift. There are a few other parts of the mindset shift, but this was the biggest one. It was, I'm not here to do everything. I'm here to make the biggest difference. Again, use this. I'm sharing this. Use this. Okay? If you're feeling frazzled in your business or in life, because this applies to any area of life. You go, well, what's going to make the biggest difference? Because you can't argue with that. If you're employed by somebody, you're employed to make the biggest difference that you can. It's not like I'm asking you to believe that the grass is blue. You're there to make the biggest difference, right? But running around like a headless chicken, trying to get everything done all at the same time, all by last Friday, making mistakes, doing it slower, like getting completely stressed. That's not what a business wants. And as a business owner, that's absolutely not how to run a business. You run your own business so that you've got time freedom. So you can do what you want when you want it with who you want to do it with. If you're just running around chasing your tail all the time, whoa, that's not what you got into business for. You're making the same mistakes as people in corporate. So the biggest difference was this, ironically, was the shift in mindset. So I went, that's the bit that's different. And what came out of this, understanding the patterns, and I know I've laboured this point, but I brought you through the entire process there. I understand the patterns of what was working, but really importantly, in what order, because you can have the best tools in the world and the best questions in the world, but if you think you're there to do everything, they're not going to work. You're not going to use them. You're going to get frustrated. You have to shift how you're looking at it. And it was Tony that said to me, Martin, it's 80% mindset, 20% execution and strategy. 80%, and as a business owner, 80% of it is the business owner's mentality, business owner's mindset. So it's like mindset, workload, time, habits, and then the compound effect. It was Becca that introduced me to the compound effect. Darren Hardy's book. Compound effect of making progress on all of those little things. Massive. That was my work leadership model. That's a pattern. So that's where I recognized that there are patterns. I then used different types of patterns, not necessarily done them in the right order, or it's just a bit bitty because, quite frankly, that's how it was taught in corporate. But then I was able to identify, use, and then create my own pattern to go, this is what makes sense. Oh, I applied that. I used that, but I hadn't twigged a couple of the bits, but now I have. Now I use that with my clients to get results. The stress comes down, productivity goes up, more time with their family. Bish, bash, bosh, boom. Work leadership, pattern. Pattern recognition, pattern use, pattern creation. From my own experience. So this is what I'm encouraging you to look at. I wanted to bring that to life with one of the key things that I created as a result of my life experience. But you can look at the make it, and I'm not going to do it for long, but look at the make it happen framework. So, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, I shared the video with Tony that went through his RPM model, right? Which was basically his results, how to get results model. The first one was about the result. But did you hear what he said about how he described it? It's not about the thing. It's about the outcome. It's about the experience you're going to have. Does that sound familiar? That's focus. That's clarity, right? So in my make it happen framework, it's clarity, because I understood that you need to know where you're going. It's like in your sat nav. You need to understand your destination, but it's about the experience you're going to have, not the actual place. Really, really important. I took Tony's framework, his pattern, and went, yeah, that's important. What was the P standing for? It was purpose. It was passion. It was your deep, meaningful why. Does that sound familiar? That's the passion part of my make it happen framework. But I went, that's really cool, Tony. That's really important. But over here, Dean taught me this strategy, this framework, 7 levels deep, which identifies your really deep emotional why. That's the framework I'm going to use for the passion bit, because Tony wasn't using that. Tony's great, right? And it's very powerful, the RPM model. But what I was wanting was, how do I make this really simple? So I don't want something where there's loads of steps. It's like, oh, here's the thing, and then you've got to do 10 steps. It's like, no. Result is the clarity, right? It's clarity about the outcome, the experience you want. Passion is about your deep, meaningful why. Use the 7 steps to do that. And then the M in Tony's RPM was about the map. It was about taking massive action. But again, there's lots within that. And he's tried to do it as RPM. That's why he's done it that way. But there's action in there. There's planning in there. I looked at it and I went, right, action is absolutely important. Planning is very important. But hold on. I've got clarity. I've got passion. There's definitely some action. And there's definitely some planning in there. Right, okay. Hold on. It still doesn't quite work for me. So I took a step back and go, right, whenever I've made progress on something I've had to work for and I've got the result, what's been in place? And I was looking at a lot of stuff, and a lot of people were talking about honesty, and Tony talks about honesty, Dean talks about honesty, Brendan talks about honesty, lots of people talk about honesty and as being the first step. And it's like, honesty is the first step, because if I'm setting up my sat nav, I need to know where I'm going, but I need to know where I'm starting from. Because some people, they kid themselves. Because life feels tough, they feel like they're 10 steps behind where they think they are, but actually they're not. It just feels that way. So we need to have an honest position of where you are on the map. But some people, because they might be a little bit embarrassed about where they're at, they pretend to be 10 steps ahead. But we got to be honest about where we're at, because that's going to dictate what steps you take next. So honesty is actually the first step, and Tony will agree. But HRPM doesn't really work, right? RPM and the revs and how he explains his model, it's like, that's cool, I take that, Tony. And for me, it's about honesty first. Then we got the clarity. So now I've got my starting point. Now I've got my destination. I need my why, powerful why, to get me through the journey that's about to happen. Great. Is it at that point I start planning and taking action? And it was like, you know what? I'm not sure. So again, I just looked at the pattern recognition in my own life, but also studying what other people do. And it was like, no, whenever I've got the results, I've really had to work hard for something, I've always had somebody in my corner. I've always had support. I've always had guidance. There's always been somebody there that's been able to reassure me, guide me when I fall off track, get me back on track. When life hits me hard, sit there, talk it through, figure it out, then get back on track, hold me accountable, hold me responsible, guide me, support me, champion me. I've always had that. Not because I'm not independent, I can't do things by myself, but because that's going to help me get there quicker, and also less likely to give up, less likely to get distracted, less likely to get interrupted. Does this sound familiar? So support was the thing that was important. And just taking it just at that point, honesty, clarity, passion, support. What's that? That's my Make It Happen framework. If you came to the Make It Happen masterminds in February, that's what we went through, and we applied it to your life. But it's based on, I recognized that there were patterns. I used patterns. Again, a bit of this, a bit of that. But then I stepped back and went, what really works in my life? I use these things, but in what order do they really, really get me the results? And it was like that. And the Make It Happen framework is for people to get started and to follow through and get some momentum. That's what that is there for. And that's why I talk about this. That's why the first quarter of this year was all about that. And that's why this year is about Make It Happen, because most people they've got an idea, but they don't actually follow through. The pattern is there. And now I've made sense of that and know that actually intuitively, this is what I was doing, but I just hadn't put a framework around it. Now I can help people with that. And if you just extend it to the 7 steps to improve your life, it's the Make It Happen framework. So honesty, clarity, passion, and support. And then we've got planning, because once you've got somebody in your corner, you can plan the actions with them. They're going to know what steps to take. Then you take the action, and then you celebrate the wins along the way. Because the other thing that I've then learned, again, looking at the patterns of how the people that are enjoying the journey, because happiness comes when you've reached the end result, when you've got the reward, when you're having the experience. That's happiness, but happiness is short-lived. The joy is in the journey. And it was Matthew McConaughey that taught me that. The joy is in the journey. So it's like, we've got to celebrate. There has to be celebration as you're reaching milestones, as you're taking action. Not just waiting for the big celebration in 6 years when you reach the goal, if indeed you do. That's the 7 steps to improve your life. It's patterns. Can you see how when we make sense of what we've been through, when we make sense of how we're living our life, that we can create frameworks, patterns around it that then can not only just help us, They can help other people. And you don't have to be a genius for this. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to do this. You just need to step back and go, right, what's an area of my life that I've been through that maybe I would like to help other people with? What got me through? What were the things? And just like I've explained, it will evolve over time. So I started with that act like a hero kind of framework where it was really workload, time and habits. But by the time I got to what I did a couple of years later, which was my Stress Dad to Calm Dad program and all the support around that, by that point I gone, mindset, that's the thing we got to work on first. Because again, it's not just the individual parts, it's the order in which to do things that are going to get you the best result. And then that compound effect, that's when work leadership was really born. And the Make It Happen framework was then taking all of this stuff about how do we get started on anything that we want to work on in life. And the 7 steps. And my fear framework, for example, that was looking at me jumping off the Stratosphere Hotel, the top of there, 108th floor, jumping off there to conquer my fear of heights. And I'd seen all these acronyms about fear, and it's like false evidence appearing real and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, that's kind of helpful, but it doesn't tell you what to do. And so my wife and I were watching the video, and it's clear the stages I've talked about this, and I've shown you this before. I looked at it and went, there are distinct stages I go through when I'm at the top. Distinct stages. And I talked these things through, and I said to him, yeah, at this point, what I'm doing, I'm petrified, and then I'm thinking about, right, it's not about this jump, it's about the experience afterwards. It's about the decades of experiences climbing and adventures with my boys. That's what I'm thinking of at that time. She went, oh, that's focus, Martin. That's focus, fear. Focus. And I said, and then then that nervous energy gets transformed into really excited energy. You see me going, let's go, let's go. That's what I'm doing. I'm just transforming that energy so that it goes from, because the nervous energy is exactly the same as excited energy. It's just the meaning you give it. And I just go for it. And she goes, that's energy. That's funny, Martin. That's FE. I said, and then I jumped. And she said, oh, so you took action. Yeah, I took action. And as a result, I got the result. FEAR. Fear. Focus, energy, action, result. Oh, and it's so simple, but it's a framework. It's a pattern recognition, right? But I recognized the pattern. I didn't then just go, yeah. But I recognized that I'd also used it. But then I went, could I create a pattern? Could I create a framework from it that might be able to help other people? This is what this is about. So I've taken you through some of my frameworks, some of the patterns I recognize. Maybe you've heard some of this before, maybe you haven't. I tell you now, all of it is relevant to you. I've just given away the secrets to my frameworks. This is what you do. But I'm sharing it to go, this is how we look at our life experience. This is how we look at the chapters in our life, make sense of them. And when we understand that they are patterns, when we understand that we can use them, then in economic winter, for example, if we got better at that, and we know that people are going through the same sort of stuff that we went through in the past, don't you think they might need your help right now? And if you just spent a bit of time just looking at that, don't you think that would help? So pattern recognition. So I hope I've really brought this to life for you. Go and watch the video from Tony, because he talks about it in a wider view as well. The whole world goes through these cycles. It's freaking fascinating. And when you understand it, you know your place in it. You know where you are in it. So you're not so fearful, but you also know how you could use it. Really, really powerful stuff. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. That's what I wanted to bring to life. And before we go, what I want to say is you're in the best time of the year. Patterns. Best time of the year to get involved in this, to give this some thought, to make some progress on this. I see, a lot of people see the year as 12 months. It's obviously got 12 months or 4 quarters. It's got 4 quarters. And in terms of business reviews, I do quarterly reviews. But how I see life in a year is I see it in 3 parts. I see it in January to Easter, Easter to summer, summer to the end of the year. I look at, again, patterns. When I look at how I've lived my life and the areas, what happens in each of these sort of times of the year, and then looking at also the people that get results and the people that don't get results, the people that work on the thing that they want to work on and the people that don't, looking at the patterns, pattern recognition. It's all patterns. I saw that there was this first part of the year. This is when we get started. This is when we get clear on what it is we want to work on. This is when we start making some progress. And, we take some action, and it's awkward, it's uncomfortable at the start, but then we carry on and we build the habits. And those habits then become non-negotiables, and we start getting some progress, and we start building some momentum. That's what the first part of this year has all been about. All the messaging here, all the masterminds, all that kind of stuff. It's about helping you get started. So that's the first part of the year. But this second part of the year is so important. I don't see anybody else talking about this. But what I see in my own life, in the lives of others, here's what happens. This part of time between Easter and summer, no matter how you've started the year. So if you're on a stormer, great. This is when that momentum builds. This is when, you don't let off. In fact, you want to put some more fuel in that fire, and you want to get going, and you're getting some great results. This is where this is going. If you haven't started, or it's been a bit sporadic, this is when you start. This is when you can still make it happen framework and apply that and go for it. Because here's the thing. What you do now will decide how strongly you end the year. A lot of people, they'll get towards the end of the year and they go, I want to finish the year strong, but they won't give this any thought until October or November. By which point, I'm not going to say it's too late, because you can do things, but what makes you think that you're going to suddenly turn things on and finish the year strong if for the entire rest of the year you've just been drifting through life and firefighting and reacting and not working on the thing that you've wanted to work on? What makes you think it's going to be any different in October or November? Especially as there's going to be more stuff. And, Christmas is going to be coming. The end of the year is going to be coming. You're going to have this pressure that you're going to just psychologically put on yourself. Even though there's life after New Year, you're going to be in a more pressurized situation, desperately trying to kind of reclaim the year at the end of the year. No. It starts now. Now's when you start building the momentum so that you can go into summer in control of things, feeling like you're making progress, feeling like you've got momentum, and not doing what most people do. Again, pattern recognition in corporate, clambering their way to the summer holidays, trying to dot every I, cross every T, trying to get everything done all at the same time, all by last Friday. Or in this case, all by the time they go on holiday. They get to the holiday and they're absolutely burnt out because they've been working crazy hours. They've been putting all the effort in. It's been totally out of control. They're still thinking about work when they go on holiday, and it takes them at least a week to actually calm down. Ever had this? It takes you a week to actually start calming down and enjoying the holiday. And then by the time you've really settled into it, it's time to come back home. We don't want that. If the work you start now, you start getting in control of these things. You start getting the momentum. You start understanding your own patterns, what works for you, how you're getting the results that you want in life, in any area of life. You're going to be able to go into the summer holidays calm, in control, confident, knowing that things are good. Don't you want that? And you can start your holiday from day 1 rather than day 6, 7, or 8. I will be bringing out my Seize the Summer video series to help people with that. It's 7 weeks out from the holiday, but it works from now. You want a strong end to the year. You want to finish the year strong, whatever that means to you. But it will mean getting the results that you want, working on the things that you wanted to improve this year. It starts now. This middle part is so important. And the beautiful thing is you've got all the support. You have got all the opportunities, all the resources to make that happen. There's no excuse. Remember one of the philosophies from the first quarter: be bigger than your excuses. And I know we've all got a lot going on in our lives, and it's been a tough start to my year. You might not think it, but it has been a tough time, not just health-wise, which I've been very open about, but other things going on behind the scenes. But I still showed up. I'm still rocking. Right? So we need to get out of our own way, and you've got all the opportunities. You've got this community right here. Engage with each other, support, share, so that we can brainstorm stuff. Share that so we can understand where you are and we can support you better. You've got access to me as your life coach, as your high performance coach. You've got Adam as your business coach. You've got Fanny as your money coach. You've got Becca as your well-being coach. You've got Empower for your health. You've got access to coaches here. You've got access to me here. You've got access to your Extraordinary Life newsletter every month. We go deep into, high performance and personal development strategies. I got recommendations in there. You've got that. You've got the Success Circle, my monthly masterminds. The next one is on the 30th, Wednesday the 30th of April at 1 o'clock UK time. And I'm going to be taking you through a success framework, a success pattern, which ironically is like a circle. And you're going to see where you are in that success cycle. You're going to look at it and you go, oh, I'm there. And when you are, again, what we've said is when you understand where you are, when you understand it's a pattern, there are steps. When you understand that, you're not so fearful, you're not so frustrated, you know exactly where you are and go, all right, so the next step I'm aiming for is this. Here's how I move forward. I'm going to be taking you through that, and we're going to be applying that to your life on the 30th. Hour and a half, 90 minutes. Getting results in the room with me. If you want to join, click the link. I did a post on that for hashtag Success Saturday. You've got that you can tap into, and you've got the biggest personal and business development event of the year, of every year, coming up in a few weeks' time on the 15th, 16th and 17th of May, which I've talked to you about. And it is about mindset in these crazy times and how we are calm and understand that we can use it to our advantage, not take advantage of people, use it to our advantage so that we can help other people. And we can help ourselves in the process to get through these times. But it's how we look at it, because it's a pattern and it's an opportunity, not something to be falling back from. And it's also about how do we extract our life experience, make sense of that, put a story around that, put a framework around that, and then help other people. And how do we find those people, and who are those people, and how do we market that? How do we sell through service through that? How do we do that? We're going to cover all of that, and we're going to do the work in the room. Dean Graciosa is going to be there. He's going to be a host doing a number of the trainings. Fantastic. He's one of my mentors. Tony's going to be there. He'll be there on day 1 and day 3. He's going to be there. And a lot of that is about mindset. So if you enjoyed the video earlier, then come and listen to him live. But we've also got a host of other guests. We've got Jay Shetty's going to be there. Rad is going to be there. We've got Lisa Nichols is going to be there. #1 motivational speaker in the world. She's amazing. Got an incredible, inspiring story, and she's a lot of fun. We've got a whole bunch of other people, but we've got Matthew McConaughey coming, right? He's going to be joining us. And some people go, well, why is an actor going to do it? Because he wrote Green Lights based on his life experience. He went through all his journals and went, what are all the patterns? What are all the experiences I've had? What works? What doesn't work? And I would like to share that with people because it might help them. So he did a book, and then he worked with Dean and Tony to create a live event out of that. And if you were there, you'll know how amazing that was. He did a live, and he said, out of all the stuff he's done, he's done all these movies, he's incredibly successful. He said the most rewarding thing he's ever done is that event, because of the immediate live feedback and the light bulbs going off. And it was amazing, the impact that he was able to have. We had 2.5 million people show up for that online. It's the biggest online event there's ever been. But Matthew's going to be back in the building sharing about that, because he then created a program, and he comes into our inner circle and does workshops with us behind the scenes at mastermind.com. And so he's going to be there sharing it again, but he's got such an amazing grounded way of doing it, because he's not from the personal development kind of industry. He's come into the self-education industry, but he's got a different way of approaching it. He's got different stories, and he's got amazing stories. So he's going to be there. It's like, you have got, given that this is the most important part of the year, you have got amazing opportunities to take advantage of right now, to tap into. And some of these are free. Some of these are paid. The mega event is free. You can upgrade and get on Zoom. You can do a $1 upgrade, and you can use all the tools so that when we're doing the work in the room, when you're creating your offer, when you're creating your framework, you're going to be able to use the tools in the room. You've got everything you need. This is an incredible part of the year. And if you can understand that it's all about patterns, if you understand that you've got more to give, then my goodness, you are in for an absolute treat. I mean, amazing. All 165 of us rocking up to the event and sharing the stories, sharing what we're working on, sharing how we're going to be impacting lives. Imagine the ripple effect of that. Oh my goodness, it'd be a dream come true, honestly. You know, hold out. I've got a meeting. I'm on a call with Dean and the team and my fellow strategic partners tomorrow night. So I'm working hard behind the scenes to make sure that you get the support that you need. So I'm on a call with them tomorrow night, using up some of my holiday time to do that, so that we're absolutely on it. And I should be able to send you the link next week to register for the event through me, get that support from me. We're having a blast. And by the way, everything I encourage you to do, I do. So with my strategic partners who work with Tony and Dean and everything, we've got our own private community, and we're rewarded for we're doing a competition in April to engage and support each other. And I love it, because I've been working with Tony and Dean for a great many years, so I'm able to help some of the new people that have come in. And we share the stories, we share what works, what doesn't work, what to be aware of, how we can support our people out there, our communities, what to do at this sort of time, what to do later on. And I'm highly engaged. We've got to be in the top 3 to win a few prizes. Well, I'm in the top 3. I might even be number 2. The person number 1, I don't know, I think she lives in the group. She's literally just set up camp in there. I can't compete with that. But I'm right there. I'm working hard behind the scenes for you. But I'm engaging in the same way I would encourage you to engage in here. And we're just going to get some swag and stuff, right? But I'm encouraging you to engage so you can have a £500 coaching session with me that could potentially change your life. So everything I talk about, I use. I hope you can see that. I'm not asking you to do anything that I haven't already done myself and that I know that works. And so if you're feeling a bit stuck, if you're feeling a bit frustrated, if you're feeling a bit down, if you're feeling like you're not making progress, now is your time. You've got everything here to help you with this. If you're rocking, if you're making the progress, you've got everything you need to continue that momentum. And like I said, finish the year strong. Most people are like, you're crazy, Martin, you're not thinking about the end of the year yet. Well, you'll think about the end of the year in October and November, and then it's kind of a little bit too late. Start now. Here's my message. Thank you so much. This has been the longest one. I should do this in parts. But I really hope that this has helped. I hope you've use the frameworks that I've talked you through. Right? It's kind of like that principle of value in advance. It's like, role model what I'm doing, role model the frameworks, use the frameworks, because you've just been given access to those frameworks to explain those things that you can literally use in your life right now. They can make a difference. Use them, but also understand the principle behind it to go, you've got patterns too. And however you're feeling about the world right now, the economy, the politics, no, it's just a cycle. It's just a pattern. And when we understand that, we're more we're more confident to go out there and go for it, make things happen, try new things. I know that you've got all the support in the world right here to make all of that happen. So thank you so much for joining on this bank holiday. I appreciate you. If you've watched it all in one go, thank you. If you've watched it in installments, probably your best idea. This could have been a Netflix series. But I'm here. I'm here for you. You know, I just share from the heart, and I want you to win at this thing called life. We get one chance. I mean, I said before, I'm an anomaly. I'm on my 7th chance. I'm just passionate about you making the most of life. And one of the ways that we can make the most of life is by understanding what we've been through and then going and helping other people. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Easter holidays. I know the children are still off now this week, so I'm going to be spending time with my family this week. And yeah, we'll catch up again soon. There's content coming out, so engage with that when you see it, or if you're taking some time out, great. Just come back to it. It's all there for you. And thank you so much, as always, you know, for your attention, for showing up. You know, I appreciate you. Let's go and have a great rest of the week. Let's go and have a great Easter to summer period. This is the time when things really, really start taking shape. And I can't wait to see your successes, your wins, your results, your momentum, because this is when it's going to happen. So thank you so much for joining. I will see you again real soon.